Good morning, good morning. Hey there. Give it a couple minutes and let people come in. Suppose I can go here and make sure that I can be heard and seen. Yep, it's all working. Of course, the dog thinks it's time to play now because I'm live. Checking my Facebook, make sure I'm live on there. Yep. Alrighty. Okay, sis. Alright, so let's get this meeting started. I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So please be kind in the chats. Don't pass judgment. Don't be mean to each other. It is a meeting, so just be kind. So let's go ahead and get into the steps and get into what we're reading. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all? Hey, sorry about that. Anyways, I'll start over. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. 1. Let's see if we can do this again. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Way back. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. That time I got through it. So I always put in the description what page we're on, what story we're reading, and what book. So today we're starting Physician, Heal Thyself on page 301. Psychiatrist and surgeon had lost his way until he realized that God, not he, was the great healer. I am a physician licensed to practice in the western states. I am also an alcoholic. In two ways. I may be a little different than other alcoholics. First, we all hear at AA meetings about those who have lost everything, those who have been in jail, those who have been in prison, those who have lost their families, those who have lost their income. I never lost any of it. I never was on Skid Row. I made more money in the last year of my drinking than I made in my whole life. My wife never hinted that she would leave me. Everything that I touched from grammar school on was successful. I was president of my grammar school student body. I was president of all of my classes in high school. And in my last year, I was president of the student body. I was president of each class in the university and president of that student body. I was voted the man most likely to succeed. The same thing occurred in medical school. I belong to more medical societies and honor societies than men 10 to 20 years my senior. Mine was the Skid Row of success. The physical Skid Row in any city is miserable. The Skid Row of success is just as miserable. The second why in which perhaps way is which perhaps I differ from some other alcoholics is this. Many alcoholics state that they don't particularly like the taste of alcohol, but that they liked the effect. I loved alcohol. I used to like to get it on my fingers so I could lick them and get another taste. I had a lot of fun drinking. I enjoyed it immensely. And then one defined me defined day, one day that I can't recall. I stepped across. Will you quit? Hey, no. I stepped across the line the alcoholics know so well. And from that day on, drinking was miserable. When a few drinks made me feel good before I went over that line, those same drinks now made me wretched. In an attempt to get over that feeling, there was a quick onslaught of a greater number of drinks, and then all was lost. Alcohol failed to serve the purpose. On the last day I was drinking, I went up to see a friend who had a good deal of trouble with alcohol and whose wife had left him a number of times. He had come back, however, and he was on this program. In my stupid way, I went up to see him with the idea in the back of my mind that I would investigate Alcoholics Anonymous from a medical standpoint. Deep in my heart was the feeling that maybe I could get some help here. This friend that maybe I could, sorry, I reread that part. This friend gave me a pamphlet and I took it home and had my wife read it to me. There were two sentences in it that struck me. One said, "Don't feel like you are the martyr because you stopped drinking." And this hit me between the eyes. The second one said, "Don't feel like you stopped drinking for anyone other than yourself." I repeat, for anyone other than yourself. Exactly what I've been saying the whole time. You have to want it for yourself. And this hit me between the eyes. After my wife had read this to me, I said to her, as I have said many times in desperation, I have got to do something. She, a good-natured soul, said, "I wouldn't worry about it. Probably something will happen." And then we went up the side of a hill where we had a little barbecue area to make the fire for the barbecue, and on the way up I thought to myself, I'll go back down to the kitchen and refill this drink, and just then something did happen. The thought came to me, this is the last one. I was well into the second fifth by this time. And as that thought came to me, it was as though someone had reached down and taken a heavy overcoat off my shoulders, for that was the last one. About 2 days later, I was called by a friend of mine from Nevada City He's the brother of my wife's closest friend. He said, Earl, and I said, yes. He said, I am an alcoholic. What do I do? And I gave him some ideas of what you do. And so I made my first 12-step call before I ever came into the program. The satisfaction I got from giving him a little of what I had read in those pamphlets far surpassed any feeling that I had ever had before in helping patients. So I decided that I would go to my first meeting. I was introduced as a psychiatrist. I belong to the American Psychiatric Society, but I don't practice psychiatry as such. I am a surgeon. As someone in AA said to me once upon a time, there is nothing worse than a confused psychiatrist. I will never Okay, I decided I would go to my first meeting. I was introduced to as a psychiatrist. I'm a surgeon. As someone in AA said to me once upon a time, there is nothing worse than a confused psychiatrist. I will never forget the first meeting that I attended. There were 5 people present, including me. At the end of the table sat our community butcher. At the other side of the table sat one of the carpenters in our community, and at the farther end of the table sat the man who ran the bakery, while on one side sat my friend who was a mechanic. Mechanic. I recall as I walked into that meeting saying to myself, here I am, a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, a fellow of the International College of Surgeons, a diplomat of one of the great specialty board in these United States, a member of the American Psychiatric Society, and I have to go to the butcher, the baker, and the carpenter to help make a man of me. Something else happened to me. This was such a new thought that I got all sorts of books on higher powers, and I put a Bible by my bedside, and I put a Bible in my car. It is still there, and I put a Bible in my locker at the hospital, and I put a Bible in my desk, and I put a big book by my nightstand, and I put a 12 steps and 12 traditions in my locker at the hospital, and I got books by Emmett Fox, and I got books by God Knows Who, and I got to reading all these things. And the first thing you know, I was lifted right out of the AA group, and I floated higher and higher and even higher until I was way up on a pink cloud, which I know is known as Pink 7. And I felt miserable again. So I thought to myself, I might just as well be drunk as feel like this. I went to Clark, the community butcher, and I said, Clark, what is the matter with me? I don't feel right. I have been on this program for 3 months and I feel terrible. And he said, Earl, why don't you come on over and let me talk to you for a minute? So he got me a cup of coffee and a piece of cake and sat me down and said, Why, there's nothing wrong with you. You've been sober for 3 months, been working hard, you've been doing all right. But then he said, Let me say something to you. We have here in this community an organization that helps people, and the organization is known as Alcoholics Anonymous. Why don't you join it? I said, What do you think I've been doing? Well, he said, You've been sober, but you've been floating way up on a cloud somewhere. Why don't you go home and get the big book and open it at page 58 and see what it says? So I did. I got the big book and read it. And this is what it said. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. The word thoroughly rang a bell. And then it went on to say, half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point, and the last sentence was, we ask his protection and care with complete abandon. Complete abandon. Half measures avail us nothing. Thoroughly followed our path. Completely give themselves to the simple program rang in my head, or rang in my swelled head. Years earlier, I had gone into psychoanalysis to get relief. I spent 5.5 years in psychoanalysis and proceeded to become a drunk. I don't mean that in any sense as a derogatory statement, but psychotherapy, it's a very great tool, not too potent, but a great tool. I would do it again. I tried every gimmick that there was to get some peace of mind, but it had not until I was brought to my alcoholic knees. When I was brought to a group in my own community with the butcher, the baker, the carpenter, and the mechanic, who were able to give me the 12 steps, that I was finally given some semblance of an answer to the last half of the first step. So after taking the first half of the first step, and very generally admitting myself to Alcoholics Anonymous, something happened. And I thought to myself, imagine an alcoholic admitting anything. But I made my admission just the same. The third step said, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Now they ask us to make a decision. We've got to turn the whole business over to some joker we can't even see. And this chokes the alcoholic. Here he is, powerless, unmanageable, in the grip of something bigger than he is, and he's got to turn the whole business over to someone else. It fills the alcoholic with rage. We are great people. We can handle anything. And so one gets to thinking to oneself, who is this God? Who is this fellow we are supposed to turn everything over to? What can he do for us that we can't do for ourselves? Well, I don't know who he is, but I've got my own idea. For myself, I have an absolute proof of the existence of God. I was sitting in my office one time after I had operated on a woman. It had been a long 4 or 5 hour operation, a large surgical procedure, and she was on her 9th or 12th post-operative day. She was doing fine. She was up and around, and that day her husband phoned me and said, "Doctor, thanks very much for curing my wife." And I thanked him for his felicitations, and he hung up. And then I scratched my head and said to myself, what a fantastic thing for a man to say that I cured his wife. Here I am down at my office behind my desk, and there she is at the hospital. I'm not even there, and if I was there, the only thing I could do would be to give her moral support. And yet he thanks me for curing his wife. Get up there and lay down. I thought to myself, what is curing that woman? Yes, I put in those stitches. The great boss Hawks giving me diagnostic and surgical talent, and he had loaned it to me to use for the rest of my life. It doesn't belong to me. He has loaned it to me, and I did my job. But that ended 9 days ago. What healed those tissues that I closed? I didn't. This to me is the proof of the existence of a somethingness greater than I am. I couldn't practice medicine without the great physician. All I do in a very simple way is to help him cure my patients. Shortly after I was starting to work on the program, I realized that I was not a good father. I wasn't a good husband, but oh, I was a good provider. I never robbed my family of anything. I gave them everything except the greatest thing in the world, and that is peace of mind. So I went to my wife and asked her if there wasn't something that she and I could do to somehow get together, and she turned on her heel and looked me square in the eye and said, "You don't care anything about my problem." And I could have smacked her, but I said to myself, grab on to your serenity. She left, and I sat down and crossed my hands and looked up at her and said, for God's sake, help me. And then a silly, simple thought came to me. I didn't know anything about being a father. I didn't know how to come home and work weekends like other husbands. I didn't know how to entertain my family. But I remember that every night after dinner, my wife would get up and do the dishes. Well, I could do the dishes. So I went to her and said, there's only one thing I want in the whole world, or in my whole life, and I don't want any accommodations. I don't want any credit. I don't want anything from you or Janie for the rest of your life. Except one thing. Are you alright over there? Except one thing, and that is the opportunity to do anything you want always. And I would like to start off by doing the dishes. And now I am doing the darn dishes every night. Doctors have been notoriously unsuccessful in helping alcoholics. They have contributed fantastic amount of time and work to our problem, but they aren't able, it seems, to arrest either your alcoholism or your mind. And the clergy have, excuse you, Piggy. Sorry, the dog just burped. And the psychiatrist has had thousands of couches and has put you and me on them many, many times. But he hasn't helped us very much. Though he has tried hard. And we owe the clergy and the doctor and the psychiatrist a deep debt of gratitude. But they haven't helped our alcoholism, except in a rare few instances. But Alcoholics Anonymous has helped. What is this power that AA possesses? This curative power. I don't know what it is. I suppose the doctor might say this is a psychosystematic medicine. I suppose the psychiatrist might say this is the benevolent interpersonal relations. I suppose others would say this is a group of psychopathy. To me, it is God. I highlighted, if you saw me grab my highlighter, I highlighted this. Complete abandon half measures avails us nothing. Thoroughly followed our path. Completely give thyself to this simple program rang in my swelled head. Yeah. So, also, um, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. The word thoroughly rang a bell. And then it went on to say half measures availed us nothing. We stood at a turning point, and the last sentence was, we asked his protection and care with complete abandon. And another thing that grabbed my eyeballs was where it said, we have to give it to someone that we can't see. That is scary to give things to someone that you can't see. But I know for me, I prayed to that God every time I got way too drunk and I couldn't make my way to wherever I needed to go. Or I'd make excuses why I couldn't get to where I needed to go. And nothing worked to keep me sober. I was, without AA, I don't know what would have happened to me in this past 10 years. I know it wouldn't have been good to be drinking that long. I mean, that would have been roughly 15 years of drinking. So, I mean, I am glad I quit when I did. I'm glad that a friend of mine invited me to AA. Because without AA, I probably would not be sitting here doing these meetings. I'd probably be in a bar, or I probably wouldn't even be alive. And that's something that we have to think about when we come out and we're sober and we're doing this sobriety thing, and we're doing this together with the fellowship and friends and our new sober friends, and we learn that we can be happy and have fun without the alcohol. Believe me, I was way up there on that pink cloud for a while. Like, I wouldn't listen to anything with the word alcohol or any drink name in it or anything like that. I refused to go into a bar. Um, it was crazy when I first got sober. And then I found AA, and, they brought me back to, okay, I gotta do these steps, and I got to do them every day to keep me here and grounded and sober, to having my feelings and my emotions to be real. And the biggest thing about finding AA is it taught me that I had to do it for me. You can't do it for someone else. You can say that's what you're going to do, and it won't come true, or it might, and you'll fall off, because you do need that help. I was one also that always said, "Oh, I'm fine. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need friends. I can drink all by myself, and screw you. Screw it. Just go get drunk and stay drunk all day and all night. Who cares? And actually, a lot of people care. A lot of people care. Um, I learned when I got sober, my family was not fooled. They were waiting for me to get sober. And when I did finally get sober, I didn't want to go back out and drink. But I did. And then, I found AA after that. And I've been sober for 10 years, and I work my program every day. I probably don't even realize how many times a day I use it. But that's the point of learning what works. And yeah, doctors and mechanics and bakers and butchers and transgender, gay and lesbian, black and white and brown and all of us are equal in this alcoholic fight. We all have the same problem with the alcohol, and that's why we go to these meetings and why I started doing these meetings. Not everybody can get out and go to a meeting, and I'm aware of that. I'm so very aware of that. A lot of people that I know can't get out and go to a meeting, but there's nothing else for them to do. And a lot of the people, when we were going through that bad time when the sickness was here, we couldn't go anywhere, and a lot of my friends went back out drinking. And all I can do is pray that they come back and find that AA helps and that they can be sober again. They don't have to stay out there and drink. And you're never not welcome. The door to AA is always open, no matter what. No matter how many times you fall off, you always have a place to come back. Just come back. And if you're new here, stay a while. Go back and I have in my playlist. All of my AA meetings are in the playlist on my YouTube. Check it out. Any of them might help you because I don't always say the same thing about certain things and different things and different times reading the books, things, it changes in my mind as time goes on. But it will forever remain that I do these meetings for you and for me. It reminds me that I am not the only one out there that needs help. I'm not the only one out there that has a story of being an alcoholic and recovering alcoholic. It's part of my life. It's going to be my life for the rest of my life. And I can't change that fact. All I can do is go forward and keep looking through the windshield and not the back window. That window's too small. I'm going forward. Yeah, I take Billy Roll's saying, the rearview mirror is too small. I'm going forward. Look to the future. Cause we're only going up. Only going up. And AA is worth all the time that I put in, that my friends put in, that my sponsors put in, my sponsees put in, everyone that is part of AA. It's a wonderful thing, and it helps millions and millions and millions of people. And some of us don't make it, and that's sad, but it's life. And like I said, and like I always say, if you're going to become sober, do it for yourself, not someone else. Do it for yourself, and you can do it. You can do it. It doesn't matter how much you want to try and say, oh no, it's not gonna work, nothing works, blah blah blah. Try it and actually mean it and follow it and use it every day. It will for sure help. And get a sponsor. Always get a sponsor. Sponsors help a lot. I had two. I have like 5 sponsees. So I'm pretty proud of how far I've come. And so let me go ahead and read the daily reflection and then let you guys go on your day. Today is January 7th at the turning point. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. This is what we just read in the book. I don't know how it always happens, but it does. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 59. Every day I stand at turning points. My thoughts and actions can propel me toward growth or turning me down the road to old habits and to booze. Sometimes turning points are beginnings. When I decide to start praising instead of condemning someone, or when I begin to ask for help instead of going it alone. At other times, turning points are endings, such as when I see clearly the need to stop festering resentments or crippling self-seeking. Many shortcomings tempt me daily. Therefore, I also have daily opportunities to become aware of them in one form or another. Many of my character defects appear daily: self-condemnation, anger, running away, being prideful, wanting to get even, or acting out of grandiosity. Attempting half measures to eliminate these defects merely paralyzes my efforts to In change it is only when I ask God for help with complete abandon that I become willing and able to change. With that, that concludes the meeting. Let's go ahead and say our serenity prayer and get on with our day. I love you guys. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. Be safe out there. Start your sobriety journey. It's worth it.